Hey everybody, it's James Freeman. Today's video shows another instance of police misconduct and brutality in another situation where there never should have been a police interaction at all. But there is a very unique difference in how this came to light versus how other videos like this come to light. In this situation, nobody had to demand that the police release this footage. The police found this footage themselves while doing a use of force investigation, and then the chief chose to call a press conference and show the public without ever being asked. But in a society where the rhetoric is that we should always obey police no matter what and fight it later in court, I always want to know what the actual cause for the interaction was in the first place. Because in so many instances, the truth is the police never should have been involved at all. This starts out with police approaching Jermaine to cite him for disorderly conduct for yelling in a public space. Title 45 of the Criminal Law Procedure, Article 45, covers offenses against public health, order, and decency. Chapter 1 covers offenses against public order. It is my personal opinion that disorderly conduct statutes are some of the most dangerously unconstitutional statutes out there. Specifically, what Jermaine was being charged with was Section 3, Part 2, making unreasonable noise and continuing to do so after being asked to stop. I am not a lawyer and nothing I say should be considered legal advice, but based on my reading of the statute, the next time that I see one of these guys making this obnoxious noise, I should be able to ask them to stop, and if they refuse, they should probably be arrested. Right? At any rate, Indianapolis Metropolitan Police contacted Jermaine because he was allegedly yelling in this public square in the middle of the day. It is not believed that his yelling was directed at any specific person or that he was involved in any altercations or fights with any other individuals. The following interaction is the result of him being louder than police liked in a public square.
Two different angles of the same moment where Nbhd says one of their own, Sergeant Eric Huxley, kicked a man in the face. That's Jermaine Vaughn on his back on the ground, handcuffed, right before he's kicked.
We're not going to do this, right?
Stop! You're done. You're done. You're done.
I promised this community and I promised our officers that I would be transparent. That's in good times and bad times. This is a bad time.
Sergeant Eric Huxley is the man that you see in the video kicking Jermaine Vaughn in the face. He's charged with 2 felonies, including official misconduct and battery involving moderate bodily injury.
The other 2 officers involved, Sergeant Christopher Kibbe and Officer Matthew Schwartz, whose body cameras provided the footage you saw, are off the streets and under an internal investigation. Additionally, Chief Taylor says all past use of force incidents involving the 3 officers will be reviewed, as well as any use of force cases that Sergeant Huxley reviewed as a supervisor.
But it's my commitment to this department and to this city that when these things come to my attention, I'm not going to allow that to exist on this department.
Huxley's attorney denies his client acted illegally or with any criminal intent and says that he has had an exemplary career. Adding in a statement to NBC News, he is very sorry about any pain caused to Mr. Vaughn as a result of his actions and the negative scrutiny upon his department and fellow officers. This incident resulted from his perception of the need to attempt a trained police technique that unfortunately struck Mr. Vaughn in an unintended area of his body.
Yes, that's right, guys. Now let me read this statement from his attorney again. This incident resulted from his perception of the need to attempt a trained police technique that unfortunately struck Mr. Vaughn in an unintended area of his body. It looks to me as if Huxley's attorney is claiming that there is a trained technique at the police department where you kick someone who is handcuffed laying on the ground, just not in the face. I was unable to reach Huxley's attorney to find out exactly where his client intended to kick a man who was handcuffed laying on the ground. I also attempted to contact the Indianapolis Police Department to find out about the procedure in which you kick a man who's handcuffed laying on his back on the ground, just not in the face. The Indianapolis Police Department did not return my call to comment on this alleged police procedure. Therefore, I am unaware of what part of Jermaine Vaughn's body Eric Huxley had intended to kick as per alleged police procedure.
This incident resulted from his perception of the need to attempt a trained police technique that unfortunately struck Mr. Vaughn in an unintended area of his body.
But Eric Huxley and other officers on scene omitted the use of this trained police technique from their report.
Court documents show when Officer Shores filled out his report, he mentions rolling Jermaine Vaughn onto his stomach and putting him in a wrist lock to get him to comply. Officer Shores never mentions the kick to Vaughn's face. Also, according to court records, in separate body camera footage from another officer who arrived at the scene to investigate the use of force, Sergeant Huxley can be heard saying, quote, "I accidentally kicked him in his face. I accidentally kicked him in his face. Accidentally kicked him in his face."